You know that feeling right when you step out of the security checkpoint and you're desperately trying to shove your belt back on while simultaneously repacking your laptop and locating your boarding pass, and you get that sudden, cold wash of realization that you might have just left something important in the bin. We have all been there. But let me ask you something, and I want you to be honest with yourself here. When was the last time you actually read the TSA's list of prohibited items before you packed? Not just glanced at the 311 rule for liquids, but really dug into the weird, specific, and often confusing stuff they either welcome with open arms or treat like a biological weapon. Because here is the truth that most travelers are learning the hard way this year. The rules are changing, and the TSA's new regulations are catching even the most seasoned frequent flyers completely off guard. I see it happening every single day at airports across the country. People who have flown 1,000,000 miles are suddenly getting pulled aside for items they've carried for years, and the confusion on their faces is real. So, before you zip that suitcase and head to the curb, I want you to pause and think about your own travel routine. What is that one item you always pack without thinking twice? The one you would be absolutely devastated to lose if an agent confiscated it at the checkpoint. Take a second, really think about it. Is it your favorite expensive moisturizer? A multi-tool you keep on your keychain? A portable charger the size of a brick? I want you to drop that in the comments and tell me what it is, because I guarantee you, the item you consider essential might be the very thing sitting at the top of the TSA's naughty list right now. And honestly, the answer might surprise you, because what we are seeing in 2024 and moving forward is a shift in enforcement that has nothing to do with the old rulebook we all thought we memorized. The real reason people are getting caught out isn't that they are malicious or trying to sneak something through. It is that air travel has become so routine, so much like riding a bus at 30,000 feet, that we operate on autopilot. We pack the same bag the same way we did last year and the year before that, but the technology at the checkpoint is evolving faster than our habits. The machines see things differently now. The officers are trained to look for different threat patterns. And the definition of what is safe to bring into the cabin of an aircraft is constantly being refined based on intelligence we never hear about. So, while you are standing there mentally preparing for your vacation, the security apparatus is playing a completely different game. Let's start with the big one, the category that causes the most arguments, the most tears, and the most frantic last-minute trips to the check-in counter: liquids. We all know the 311 rule, right? 3.4 ounces or less, all fitting into one single quart-size bag, one bag per passenger. It is drilled into us from the moment we start flying. But here is where the new rules are tripping people up. It is not about the size of the bottle anymore. Not entirely. It is about the state of the contents. The TSA has become incredibly sophisticated in how they screen what is actually inside that little bottle. If you have a sunscreen that is labeled 3.4 ounces, but the scanner detects a density that doesn't match typical sunscreen, or if the seal looks tampered with, or if the liquid inside appears to have separated in a way that looks suspicious, that bottle is getting pulled. They aren't just looking for volume anymore. They are looking for composition. And for the love of all that is holy, do not try to bring a frozen liquid through. I see this with ice packs for lunches or frozen water bottles. If it is partially melted, it is a liquid. If it is a gel pack, it is a liquid. If you can shake it and it moves, it is a liquid. The rule is absolute. You can bring it frozen solid, completely solid, but the moment there is any thaw, you are breaking the rule. And the officers are not in the business of debating the physics of phase transitions with you at 6 in the morning. Then you have the powder rule. This is one of those new regulations that flew under the radar for a long time, but is now being enforced with increasing frequency. If you are traveling with a large amount of powder-like substances in your carry-on, think protein powder, matcha, fancy face powders, even baby formula, you might be subject to additional screening. The rule states that powders in quantities over 12 ounces, or 350 milliliters, must be placed in a separate bin for X-ray screening. They might even need to be swiped and tested for explosive residue. This is not about banning your post-workout shake. It is about the difficulty of identifying certain substances in a crowded bag. So, if you are heading to a long trip and you need your supplements, put them in your checked bag. It saves you the hassle of being that person holding up the line while an officer carefully wipes down your turmeric powder. But let's move away from the consumables and talk about the tech, because this is where the caught-off-guard factor is at an all-time high. We live in a world of portable power, We have power banks for our phones, our laptops, our watches. The TSA loves power banks in the sense that they want them in the cabin. They actually want you to keep lithium-ion batteries and power banks in your carry-on luggage, not in your checked bags. This is a fire safety issue. If a lithium battery catches fire in the cargo hold, it is a disaster that is hard to reach. If it catches fire in the cabin, the flight crew can deal with it. So, that massive 50,000 mAh power bank you bought to keep your devices charged for a week, it has to stay with you. But here's the twist that is getting people. Even though they want it in the cabin, if that power bank looks damaged, if the casing is cracked, or if the terminals are exposed, they will not let it through. It becomes a hazard. And if it is a poorly made, off-brand brick with no labeling indicating its capacity or chemical composition, a vigilant officer might flag it. They are looking for things that look like they could overheat or fail. So stick to reputable brands, keep the labeling intact, and for goodness sake, don't pack 5 of them. There is an unspoken limit. While it is not a written rule, if you show up with a bag full of loose batteries, you are going to attract attention, and not the good kind. Speaking of tech, let's talk about the evolution of the laptop rule. For years, it was simple. Laptops out of the bag in a bin by themselves. Now, with the rollout of computed tomography, CT scanners at major airports, you might be able to leave your laptop in your bag. But this is a trap. Just because the technology exists does not mean every lane, every checkpoint at every airport has it. You might walk up to a checkpoint that still uses the old technology and you haven't pulled your laptop out because you were used to the new tech at your home airport. Suddenly, you are being yelled at to go back, take it out, and rescan it while your bag sits in the no man's land of the conveyor belt. The best habit to develop is to watch the people in front of you. Look at the bins they are using. Are they putting electronics in bins separately? If you see a pile of laptops in trays, take yours out. Don't rely on the signage. Rely on observation. The officers appreciate a traveler who is paying attention. Now let's dive into the category that I find the most fascinating and, frankly, the most confusing for the average person: tools and self-defense items. This is where the disconnect between what is legal to own and what is legal to fly with becomes a massive chasm. You can legally buy a baseball bat in every state in the union. You can keep it by your bed, but try bringing it through a security checkpoint. It is not going to happen. It is considered a club, a blunt instrument. The same goes for tools. The general rule of thumb is, if it can be used to inflict harm, it stays behind. But the specifics are where it gets hairy. Small tools like screwdrivers, wrenches, and pliers that are less than 7 inches long are technically allowed. But here is the human element. The final decision rests with the TSA officer on duty. If you have a screwdriver that is 7 inches long but looks like it could double as a shiv, they have the authority to deny it. If you have a multi-tool with a blade, that blade is the deciding factor. If the blade is removable, it is a weapon. If the blade is less than 2.36 inches, it might be allowed. But again, if it locks into place, some officers view that as a fixed blade and will take it. I once watched a gentleman argue with an officer for 20 minutes about a Leatherman tool he had carried for 30 years. He flew with it in the 90s, he flew with it in the 2000s, and now, in this decade, it was suddenly contraband. The rules tightened up after 9/11, but they have continued to tighten in subtle ways since. The officer explained to him, very patiently, that the rules had been updated to specifically disallow tools with certain gripping or puncturing capabilities. The man lost his prized possession at the checkpoint. He could have gone back to the counter, checked his bag, and put the tool inside, but he was already through the line and refused to go back. He chose to lose it rather than miss his flight. That is the kind of real-world consequence we are talking about. You have to know what is in your bag. And you have to know the current rules, not the rules from 2005. Then, there are the items that exist in a weird legal gray zone. Self-defense sprays, for example. Pepper spray is a tricky one. You are generally allowed to pack one small canister of pepper spray in your checked baggage, provided it has a safety mechanism to prevent accidental discharge. But you cannot, under any circumstances, bring it in your carry-on. Yet, I see people trying to bring pepper spray, bear spray, and mace through the checkpoint all the time. They forget they put it in their purse after a late-night walk. Or they think because it is small, it will be okay. It is not okay. It is considered an irritant and a disabling chemical, and it is treated with the same seriousness as a firearm. You will get a visit from law enforcement, not just a TSA agent. You will be questioned, you might be cited, and you will definitely miss your flight. Firearms are a whole separate beast, and if you are a gun owner, you absolutely must know the rules. You cannot just throw a handgun in your checked bag and call it a day. It must be declared. It must be in a hard-sided, locked case. It must be unloaded. The ammunition must be packed in specific ways, and you have to go to the check-in counter and declare it. The TSA is not your enemy here. They are enforcing federal law, but the number of people who forget they have a gun in their bag is staggering. And no, they don't believe you forgot. There is no grace period for a firearm. It results in a massive fine, potential arrest, and the loss of your TSA pre-check privileges for a very long time, if not forever. It is the ultimate travel killer. Let's pivot to something far less aggressive but equally confusing. Food. Food is a battleground at the checkpoint. You can bring a solid sandwich through, no problem. You can bring a whole cake. Fantastic. But the moment that cake has a liquid filling or that sandwich has a spreadable jam that exceeds the liquid limit, you have a problem. Peanut butter is a classic example. It is a spread, it is a semi-solid, and the TSA classifies it as a liquid or gel. So if you have a jar of peanut butter that is bigger than 3.4 ounces, it has to go in your checked bag. The same goes for yogurt, hummus, maple syrup, and creamy dips. People argue about this constantly. "But it's not a liquid," they shout, to which the agent replies, "It is a spreadable, pourable, malleable substance, and it falls under the same screening category. You cannot win that argument. Just pack it in your checked luggage or buy it at your destination." And then there are the holiday travelers. Oh, the holiday travelers. Trying to bring a frozen turkey through security? I have seen it. A giant frozen 20-pound bird. It is solid, so technically it is allowed through the checkpoint. But the look on the officer's face when they see that on the X-ray is priceless. They have to swab it, test it, and figure out why someone is carrying a frozen turkey onto a plane. Is it allowed? Yes. Is it advisable? Absolutely not. It creates a scene, it holds up the line, and frankly, it is just weird. Use some common sense. If it looks strange in your suitcase, it is going to look even stranger on the screen. Beyond the physical items, there is a whole new layer of rules that have nothing to do with what is in your bag, but rather what is on your person, or more specifically, what is happening with your identification. The Real ID Act is finally being enforced. If you are still using a state-issued driver's license that does not meet federal Real ID standards and you are flying domestically, you are going to need an alternative form of identification, like a passport. The deadlines have been pushed back for years, giving people a false sense of security. But those days are over. The enforcement is ramping up. If your license was issued by a state that is not compliant, or if you have the old federal limit supply star missing, you are going to have a problem. The officers at the document checkpoint are not being lenient anymore. They are turning people away from the security line and sending them back to the ticket counter to get a passport or find another ID. This is not a TSA rule designed to annoy you. It is a federal law passed by Congress. But it is catching millions of travelers off guard because they assume their driver's license is valid everywhere, all the time. Another behavioral thing that is changing is the scrutiny on electronics that won't turn on. If you are traveling internationally or even domestically on a random screening, if you have a laptop or a phone that is dead and you cannot power it up when asked, you might not be allowed to bring it on the plane. This policy has been around for a while, aimed at preventing certain types of devices from being brought on board. But the application of it is becoming more frequent. They want to see that the device is what it appears to be and that it functions. So before you head to the airport, charge your devices. A dead laptop is a suspicious laptop. It is a headache you do not need. Imagine standing there trying to explain to a federal officer that you just forgot to charge it, while they look at you with practiced skepticism. It is not a fun place to be. Let's talk about the things you can bring that you might not even think about. For instance, you can bring a knife, as long as it is in your checked bag. But the perception is that all knives are banned. They aren't banned from flying, they are banned from the cabin. Check them. You can bring tools, you can bring sporting goods, you can bring camping gear. You just have to check them. The distinction between carry-on and checked baggage is the most important distinction in air travel. The carry-on is for your valuables, your medications, your essentials, and your entertainment. The checked bag is for everything else. People try to cram their lives into a roller bag that goes overhead, and then they are shocked when the TSA agent pulls out a tent stake or a hammer. Of course they pulled it out. You are trying to bring a hammer onto an airplane. Step back and think about how that looks. There is also a lot of confusion around medical exceptions. If you have a medical condition that requires you to carry larger quantities of liquids or syringes or ice packs, you are allowed to do so. But you have to declare it. You have to separate it from your other belongings and tell the officer at the start of the screening process. You cannot just hope they don't notice the liter of saline solution in your bag. They will notice it. And if you haven't declared it as a medical necessity, they will treat it as a violation of the liquid rule. But if you speak up, say, I have medical liquids that exceed the limit, they will screen them appropriately. They might test them, they might ask for documentation, but they will work with you. The key is communication. Do not hide it. Hiding it makes it look suspicious. Presenting it openly makes you look like a traveler with a legitimate need. And this brings me to the most important piece of advice I can give you about navigating the TSA, and it has nothing to do with the list of items. It is about your attitude. The officers are human beings. They are standing on concrete for hours, dealing with hundreds of people who are stressed, tired, and often rude. They have a difficult job that requires intense focus. If you walk up to the checkpoint with a smile, if you have your ID and boarding pass ready, if you have your liquids bag out and your pockets empty, you are already in the top 1% of travelers they deal with. But if you are the person who waits until they are at the front of the line to start digging for your ID, or who argues about the size of your toothpaste, you are creating a problem. And when you create a problem, the officer has more time to look at your bag. They have more time to scrutinize every item. They might just decide that your portable charger looks a little beat up and needs a second look. Don't give them a reason to look closer. The new rules and the new enforcement patterns are not traps designed to catch you. They are responses to the changing world we live in. The technology that terrorists use evolves, and so does the technology to detect them. The rules about powders came from real intelligence about attempts to conceal explosives in non-liquid forms. The rules about large electronics came from plots to hide bombs in battery compartments. It is easy to get frustrated when you are standing in line, taking off your shoes and unpacking your bag. It feels invasive and arbitrary, but every single rule, every single prohibition is written in the blood of past tragedies. We don't like to think about that when we are rushing to catch a flight to Miami for a vacation, but it is the truth. The system is reactive, and it is designed to be one step ahead of the last attack. So, what does this mean for you, the traveler? It means you have to be proactive. Do not rely on what you knew 5 years ago. Do not rely on what your friend told you. Check the TSA website. Look at their social media accounts. They are actually very active and post about weird items they find every day. They have a Can I Bring search tool on their website and app. Use it. It takes 2 seconds and can save you from losing a valuable item or missing a flight. Think about the items you carry every day. Your keys probably have a tiny knife on them or a bottle opener. Your wallet might have a money clip that looks like a blade. Your backpack might have a small tool you forgot about from a project last month. Go through your bags the night before. Physically empty them. Turn out the pockets. You will be amazed at what you find. I once found a small box cutter blade in the lining of a jacket I hadn't worn in a year. I had no idea it was there. If I had worn that jacket through security, I would have been that person. The one getting the extra pat down. The one with the bag search. The one holding up the line. It is not worth the risk. And let's talk about the new body scanners for a moment. Those machines see everything. They see the outline of your body. They see if you have something tucked into your waistband or under your clothes. The old days of putting your metal items in the bin and walking through a metal detector are fading fast. These advanced imaging technology machines are looking for anomalies, for anything that doesn't look like a normal human contour. If you have a tissue in your pocket, it will show up. If you have a folded piece of paper, it will show up. Empty your pockets completely. Don't think you can sneak a pass because the item is non-metallic. The machine doesn't care about metal, it cares about density and shape. I see travelers get caught out by this constantly. They forget they have a boarding pass in their back pocket. They forget they have a napkin with some crumbs on it. They walk through, the machine alarms, and they get the pat down. It adds minutes to the process. And if you get selected for additional screening often enough, you might find yourself on a list that gets you selected every single time. It is a hassle you can avoid by simply following the instructions. Empty your pockets. Everything. Put it in your bag or in the bin. Another thing that surprises people is the rule about outerwear. You have to remove your jacket, your coat, your hoodie. Why? Because a jacket can hide things. It has pockets, it has layers, it adds bulk that obscures the scanner's view of your actual body. Even if you are just wearing a thin windbreaker, take it off. Put it in the bin. It goes through the X-ray. It is faster, it is easier, and it ensures that the scanner gets a clear image of you, which means you are less likely to get pulled aside for a pat-down. It is a simple thing, but you would be surprised how many people argue about it. It's just a cardigan, they say. It doesn't matter. Off, in the bin. And can we talk about shoes for a second? We all know we have to take them off unless you have TSA pre-check, but the rule about socks is unspoken but very real. If you are walking through the checkpoint in bare feet or in those little footy socks with no grip, you are going to have a bad time. The floor is disgusting. It has been walked on by thousands of people who have walked through who knows what. Wear socks. Wear clean socks. And if you have TSA pre-check, savor the moment you get to keep your shoes on. It is one of the great joys of modern air travel. The whole pre-check system is worth mentioning because it changes the rules of the game. If you have pre-check, you get to leave your liquids in your bag, your laptop in your bag, your shoes on, your jacket on. It is a streamlined experience designed for low-risk travelers. But here is the catch. Even with pre-check, you are not exempt from all rules. You still cannot bring a weapon. You still cannot bring a huge liquid. The screening is lighter, but it is not absent. And if you set off the metal detector or if something in your bag looks weird on the X-ray, you are getting pulled out of the pre-check lane and into the standard screening process. It happens. Don't get complacent just because you paid for the fast pass. Now, I want to circle back to that original question I asked you about the one item you always pack. I asked you to think about it, and I asked you to share it in the comments because I genuinely want to know what people consider essential. Is it a Swiss Army knife? Is it a specific brand of hair product? Is it a vape? Vaping devices are a whole other category. You can bring them in carry-on, but the batteries are subject to the same rules as lithium-ion batteries. And if the device has a tank, it has to be empty because residual liquid counts towards your liquid limit. People forget to empty their vape tanks and then wonder why they are being pulled aside. Empty it. Put it in the bin. Be done with it. The reality of flying in America today is that the rules are a living document. They shift. They change. What was permissible last month might be on the prohibited list this month. The TSA does not always do a great job of publicizing these changes to the general public. They put out press releases, but who reads those? They update their website, but who checks it before every flight? The average traveler packs the same way they always have. And that is why the TSA's new rules are catching people off guard. It is a mismatch between the speed of regulatory change and the slowness of human habit. Take, for example, the rules regarding gel-like materials. Hand sanitizer became a massive item during the pandemic. People carried huge bottles. The TSA temporarily allowed larger bottles due to health concerns, but those temporary rules have expired. The grace period is over. Yet, I still see people trying to bring 8-ounce bottles of hand sanitizer through. They argue, "But I brought this last year." Yes, and last year was a different world. The rules are back to normal now. That big bottle has to go in your checked bag. This brings me to a crucial point about enforcement discretion. TSA officers have a lot of power. They can look at an item, interpret the rule, and make a judgment call. You can stand there and argue with them until you are blue in the face, but you will not win. They are the final authority at that checkpoint. If they say the item cannot go through, you have 3 choices. Put it in your checked bag if you have time to go back to the counter, give it to a companion who is not flying, or throw it away. Those are your options. Arguing will not change the outcome. It will only make you late and frustrated. I have seen people miss flights because they spent 40 minutes arguing over a 4-ounce bottle of shampoo. Was that shampoo worth missing your vacation? Probably not. The best travelers are the ones who accept this reality. They know that the checkpoint is a one-way door. Once you are in, you are in. There is no going back without a major hassle. So, they prepare, they pack smart, they arrive early, they have their documents ready, they listen to the officers, they move quickly. They are the ones who get through in 10 minutes while the person arguing about the multi-tool is still standing there, red-faced, holding a confiscated item and wondering what went wrong. I want you to be that traveler. I want you to walk through the checkpoint with confidence, knowing that you have followed the rules, that your bag is compliant, and that you have nothing to hide. Because when you have that confidence, the whole process becomes easier. You are not anxious. You are not fumbling. You are just moving. And that is the secret to a stress-free airport experience. It is not about luck. It is about preparation. Think about the future of air travel, too. We are moving towards a world of biometric screening where you might not even need a boarding pass or an ID. You will just walk up, look at a camera, and go through. That technology is being tested now. But even in that high-tech future, the rules about what you can bring will still exist. The scanners will still need to see inside your bag. The machines will still need to identify threats. The human element might be reduced, but the physical limitations of what is safe to bring into a pressurized aluminum tube at 35,000 feet will never change. So, as you plan your next trip, whether it is for business or pleasure, take a few minutes to audit your packing. Ask yourself the hard questions. Do I really need this tool? Is this liquid under 3.4 ounces? Is my ID compliant? Is my power bank in good condition? And most importantly, am I prepared to accept the TSA's decision if they flag something? If you can answer yes to all of those, you are ready. You are ready to navigate the checkpoint with ease, to keep your cool when others are losing theirs, and to start your journey on the right foot. And I really do want to know what you are packing. That item you think is harmless, the one you take everywhere, drop it in the comments. Let's see what the collective travel wisdom of this community looks like. Maybe we can warn each other about the things we never thought to question. Maybe your comment will save someone else from losing their favorite thing at the checkpoint. That is the power of sharing experiences. We are all in this together, navigating the ever-changing landscape of airport security, one quart-sized bag at a time. The next time you are standing in that line, watching the clock and wondering if you are going to make it, remember this conversation. Remember that the rules are there for a reason, even when they seem silly. Remember that the officer on the other side of the conveyor belt is just doing a job. And remember that a little bit of preparation goes a long, long way. Safe travels.